Years ago, Jim and I were sitting in our Sunday school class, listening to friends of ours who had come back on furlough from being on the mission field with the Maasai tribe in Africa. And they brought pictures and were talking about the group of people whom they had fallen in love with. And as we were watching and looking at the pictures, we suddenly looked at each other and realized this tribe is the same as our people in Hollywood. We are working with a tribe of people who are just like a tribe of people anywhere else in the world. And we're in a foreign mission field, in fact, the world's most influential mission field. And we're reaching a group of people who fit the definition of an unreached people group. They're closed to outside influence. They have their own culture. They have their own way of life. And they're the people who we have been called to work with and love and minister to. And we want to compare today the similarities between the Hollywood tribe and the Maasai tribe, so that you can get a chance to see that we are working with a tribe of people that are just as important and more influential even than other missionaries who are working with people groups around the world. This is Mr. and Mrs. Maasai. If you see, they have their own language, they have their own dress. She has blue suede shoes. They have their own gods that they worship. They have their own traditions and culture. And when our friends came into Maasai land, they didn't try to make the Maasai people change. They didn't try to make them look different or act different. They came alongside, built relationships, embraced their culture, and then gained the respect to be able to share their faith with them, not worrying about what was on the outside, but wanting to touch their hearts on the inside.
And this is what our tribe looks like. It looks like Giorgio and Stephanie Armani. What separates man from beast is the ability to accessorize. This tribe has all kinds of garb that they wear. They have gods that they worship. There's the Oscar god. There's the Emmy god. There's the god of the personalized parking space. That's a very important god. It's a very unique tribe. It's important to understand that we have to live amongst these people and understand who they are in order, if we're going to influence them, especially given the fact that while Washington may be the seat of power, Hollywood is the seat of influence. And what happens here influences people all over the world. These people also are they're very nomadic. They have their own dress, and it's important for us to understand exactly who they are. In fact, we call them the Duliwa people. That's Hollywood spelled backwards. So we actually call them the Duliwa people. This is the Duliwa tribe that we live amongst.
This is the main watering hole in Maasai land. It's the only shade for miles. And the community gathers under this tree for social events. They have church on the weekends. They have business meetings. The kids play under this tree. It's the place where our friends gathered with their community to build relationships, to spend time with the people, to share their faith with them. They didn't try to minister from the outside in. They lived amongst the people, hung out where they hung out, spent time with them, built relationships, and that's where they got a chance to really have an impact.
And this is where our tribe hangs out. It's actually the local watering hole, not more than about 4 blocks away from our house. Every morning, people like Jerry Bruckheimer gather at this watering hole, this tree, and they share stories with each other. It's kind of their church in a lot of ways. And the important thing, I think, to understand is that we have to live amongst these people if we're going to influence them. We've got to go to their schools. We've got to speak their language. It's really the only way that that's going to happen. The whole idea of boycotting a tribe for the short term, it may have some effect, but in the long term, it's the same thing as if we were to take signs and march around the Maasai people or the Duliwa people and expect for them to change. If we march around the tribe and say, we're not going to buy your blankets, we're not going to do unless you start acting more like Christians. That's the same kind of effect that boycotts have here. They might do something very short term, but in the long term, it just doesn't work. I've yet to meet anybody that's become a Christian because of a boycott in this industry. It just doesn't happen. And I also struggle to find where in the New Testament where Jesus did the same thing. Where did Jesus ever walk around the sinners and say, I'm not going to have anything else to do with you. Why don't you act more like the Pharisees? That's the same kind of logic, and that's what just doesn't work in this community.
This is the main road in Maasai land, the 2 dirt tracks at the bottom of the picture. This is where our friends had to bring a 4-wheel drive vehicle in order to get across the terrain. They live in a dangerous place there. They have thieves that stop them along the way. There are animals that attack them. They don't know what they're getting into when they bring their family to this strange place. But they have to trust that they're in God's hand, that He's taking care of them, and that they are ministering and living right where they're meant to be. This road may flood with the rains that come down, and it may stop them from getting to meet with the people they need to meet with. But they're patient, and they accept the terrain, and they know that they're there in the place where they're supposed to minister. It may take 5 or 6 hours for our friend to get down this street with his 4-wheel drive vehicle in order to meet with the tribal chief. But then he's moved on because it's a very nomadic tribe. And yet that's got to be okay with our friends who come and accept the culture and the people who they're loving.
And this is the road that we drive down. And it may take 5 or 6 hours in your Range Rover to get to actually the Paramount lot, where you find that your tribal chief you want to meet with is now moved on to the Sony tribe, because they're a very nomadic group of people. Sometimes they only have 3 or 4 ideas, and they have to keep recycling those same ideas as they move around. But I think most importantly, and what we learn by this, is that we must live amongst these people. And for us as parents, it's important for us also to realize that we're raising another generation of missionaries amongst these people. Just about everybody that I know that's on the mission field today was on the mission field because they grew up as missionary children. So we're trying to do the very same thing with our children. One wants to be an actor and one is a director. So it's important, I think, for people that are thinking about, should I send my children there or should I go there, to simply have that same kind of mindset, so that when we go with our son into auditions, he can pray before he goes into an audition. He can pray for the people that he's working with. Again, just raising up another generation of missionary children within the world's most influential mission field. Every place that we've been, where we've talked to other missionaries, every missionary says specifically how what happens in this mission field affects the work that they do across the planet. Our friends who are missionaries, underground missionaries in China, they said when they were going across the Chinese desert, if they weren't showing Chinese propaganda on the little television monitors, they were showing reruns of an American television show called Hunter. Our friends who are missionaries here in Kenya, they said the biggest thing in Kenya is Baywatch. Our friends who are missionaries in the old Soviet Union, in Russia then, said American music permeates everything that happens there. American culture, there's no place that you can go on this planet where it's not affected by what happens within this little missionary field right here.
Would you join us in considering Hollywood a mission field and embracing the Christians who are here as missionaries, praying for us and understanding that we are here because God has a plan to redeem Hollywood, and He's doing it through His people. And we need your help to be a part of that plan in praying for us, supporting us, and knowing that you are making an eternal difference.
And because God sent His Son into the world, not to condemn Hollywood, but that Hollywood might be saved through Him.